All right. We don't want any of our viewers to get sick right now as we're taking this ride. Actually, I have no idea where this track, this simulated track is, but it's pretty cool for a new open. Right in time, even though this is no similarity to Bristol, but that's okay. Bristol Motor Speedway is coming up on Saturday night. We can't wait. Unfortunately, we only get one of these each year, Eric. It's one of the biggest travesties for NASCAR. Shame on them.
Yeah, I mean, this Bristol's arguably the highlight of the year. Granted, the short track package hasn't been
Yeah.
great last year, but still Bristol. I mean, even last year's race, you saw tires blowing, power steering going out, engines, transmissions. I mean, it chewed up and spit cars out over the 500 laps. So hopefully we get some more chaos. I mean, we got a number one seed on the brink of elimination. Who would
We
have thought
do.
about that?
Yes.
That's
And matter of fact, good segue because we talked about that last week,
yep.
and we didn't really think it was going to happen, but it did. So let's see. Let us take a look-see and a hear-see last week about what it would take for one of those drivers to not make it past the first round. And well, Martin Truex Jr. basically just passed the first test in the wrong way.
Yep.
So its chances are he's going to be okay. He's going to get through. But yeah, I'd be a little bit concerned.
Yeah, because you know what track he's not good at? Bristol.
There
And
you
that's
go.
the next race. So that's why I mentioned with Hamlin, Truex, same way. He's out of a mulligan because they're at plus 27, plus 25. A top 10 on Sunday will maintain, should be good enough. But another mistake, another loose wheel, another speeding penalty, getting caught up in somebody else's mess. That plus 25 could be plus 5. Very well could go. And he's not good at Bristol. That could put him in. And when you all of a sudden, when you're the number one seed and now you're on the brink of elimination, you tighten up. Things happen. That it seems like it's hard to stop the bleeding at that point. So
Yep. It is hard to stop the bleeding, my friend. And
yep, nailed it.
yes, and now they're in trouble. A little bit of trouble. They're on the outs.
Yeah, now they're 7 points behind with one race left, and it'd be one thing if this was a good track for him, but not when you're out of the last 19 Bristol tries and you've got two top tens. That's not going to get it done. That especially be on the outside, and you also got to look at who he's chasing. The two, we'll call it the bottom two on the plus side. They're former series champions. They're pretty good at Bristol. And the two above him, or them, they're the last two Bristol winners. So this could be a problem for Truex on Saturday night.
Yeah, look at this right now. I mean, look at this. I mean, he was first just a couple of weeks ago. He's
Regular season champion. I mean, I looked it up. The only time that the regular season champion hasn't made the championship four was in 2020 when Kevin Harvick, he had his issues in the round of 8, but that was the round of 8. This is unprecedented. I mean, I looked it up yesterday. I added it up. Truex has scored the second most points on the season still because the playoffs reset the points. They start at 2,000, they reset. But if you just take the reset out, just accumulated the points for the 28 races, he's second, and he might get eliminated. Last year, he was in the top 5 of the regular season, and he didn't even make the playoffs. So this could be two huge things that can happen to him in 2 years. 2 years. I would not be sleeping good if I were them right now. And in fact, for the NASCAR side, it's a nice story going into Bristol. Your top seed is this is that NCAA tournament where the number one seed is just this past March. Who was that? Was it Virginia that lost the game? No, not Virginia. The number one they just lost. Oh, Purdue. It was the
yeah, I
you're
can't. They
down.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't recognize as a number one
Yeah.
seed. So yeah.
No. But you're already through halftime and you're down. You're through the 10-minute mark, and now in basketball terms, you're through the final media timeout, and you're still losing. That's where Martin Truex Jr. is right now. He's got to somehow get the points, and I don't know. I don't know a path.
Yeah, I mean, he's what, 6 behind Harvick?
7.
7 behind Harvick, and then another 12 Logano and Bell. So bottom line is basically if he doesn't have a top 10 and 3 or 4 drivers ahead of him have top 15s, that's it, right?
Yeah, and unless. Yeah, because what's even worst case for him, and I don't foresee it happening because they're not great there either, would be like a Bubba Wallace, Stenhouse, or McDowell winning. I mean, that would be an even more big of a dagger.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's got to get well into the top 10. He's got to get stage points. He's got to score some points. But I mean, you just look at who's in front of him, Kevin Harvick, and I know we'll talk his stats when we get into his picks, but I mean, he just won this race in 2020 and was runner-up in 2021. He was 10th last year. That gets it done. And then you look at Joey Logano. These are arguably enough. Short tracks have been pretty good for him. He's been 7 top 10s his last 12 at Bristol. If he does that again, Truex got to get a top 5, top 3. That's something he just doesn't do there. He's just not good at that track. So,
and Buescher's defending champ.
Yeah,
Bell would be the one. I think Bell or maybe Chastain. Those two, you just don't know. You can see them having a bad day just because of the season they've had. They've been inconsistent. Those would be the 2 guys that'd be a little bit, you know what, if something happens to those guys. But if it doesn't, it's
still asking a lot too. Yeah, because you got to think, even with Bell, that's 13 points. He could finish, let's just say, throw stage points out right now because you can't foresee that. That's 13 on-track spots Truex has to finish ahead of Christopher Bell just to tie him. And then you go on the best finish for this round, which Bell's got that last week with 8th. So he holds the tiebreaker right now. And Chastain, he's 18 to the good. That's a lot of points to make up. And I looked, the lowest anybody that hasn't won a cutoff race in the round of 16, the first round, to get by is 19 points. So you look at everybody behind Truex, or I'm sorry, it's 18 points. Everybody's 19 points or further back. So it would be unprecedented if Bubba or Stenhouse or McDowell races their way in. So they're in some trouble right now. We may very well have the second round already set. We just don't know it yet.
And that's what's going to make Saturday night even more exciting, especially if it goes down to the wire, the last 20 or last 50 laps or so. And hopefully the network, is this on USA?
It's on USA, yep.
So hopefully
I think it's the last USA race, if I'm not mistaken. I can.
All right. Well, I hope.
Oh, nope. Texas is the last USA. Then it's NBC the rest of the way.
Okay. Well, I hope they're on the ball as far as being prepared to make sure that they have all the necessary stats in front of you if it comes down to it, and things are really, because you would suspect that they'll have, which they should have, a split screen as far as who's leading the race, and then if there is some big drama, and if Truex is involved, we'll zero in on Truex and who's he trying to pass and things of that nature. So we'll see if that comes into play or not. But it was look, last week, this past weekend was I would call this like the best handicapping weekend I've had all year. And football had a lot to do with it, but this really also had a lot to do with it. I complained an awful lot this year about getting screwed for a very long time with late cautions when I don't want them. And why don't I ever get a late caution? And I just don't remember the last one I had, and then it happened. And then the first step is it happened. The second step is you have to complete the deal. And the fact that several drivers decided to put up some screwy, Suarez is going to stay out, and a couple of 2-tire stuff. Oh, that's perfect. Even better. More craziness in front of you. And then, of course, it was just a matter of luck and which which lane was going to work out as a 50-50 deal with Hamlin and Reddick. They were side by side. Which one was going to get the better start? And Reddick got the better start. And you could tell if there was just one more lap, we could have had a lot of drama because Hamlin was coming strong. Finally, he was able to get through everything, and he was coming after Reddick. Not that Reddick wasn't capable of holding him off, because Reddick was definitely the second best car all night. Hamlin just happened to be the best. But I don't know, maybe if Reddick was in clean air, Reddick could have proved that he was just as good. We never really got that opportunity. But Reddick, who's been in a lot of second place finishes at this track in the Xfinity Series, in the NASCAR Series recently, the second place stuff just went away. And this is what you have to do. When you're constantly in the top 5 or in second place, you get a break every once in a while, and they took advantage of it.
He did, deserving. I mean, we talked about that last week too. I mean, this is the third driver in the 45 car in the last 4 races to win that race. And
we have that set up too.
There you go.
So
yeah, we called it.
Let's listen to that. He's going the exact opposite of the way the Bell camp is going. They're picking things up. They're getting close. Now if you look at it, it's been since what? Road race early this year. Circuit of America, is that what it was?
Yep.
So they haven't won since then, but over the last 8 races or so, you've got a good amount of top 10s. You have 3 top 5s and 2 runner-ups. So, and throw in the fact that he led 23 laps this year. He led 38 laps from the pole in last year's race. And in 3 Xfinity Series races, second, 5th. And he's led 23 or more laps at this racetrack the last 3 times he's been here. So I don't see any reason to think that these two, Bell and Reddick, should be the same as far as odds. So I'll take advantage of that, and so did you.
Yeah, and think too, what's his car number? What car is he in? He's in the 45. Who won the spring race last year?
Oh.
Kurt Busch in the 45. Who won the playoff race last year? Bubba Wallace in the 45. This is the same car. So they moved Bubba to that car for the playoff points. That car won twice. It swept. That car swept last year. Why not win 3 or 4 races at Kansas with the next gen with 3 different drivers in the same car? It just makes too much sense. And you get him for the same odds as Bell. So like you said, he's heating up. I mean, you go back to New Hampshire, 6th, 2nd.
Yeah, we can stop it there. That's the other thing that we really didn't bring up that was important, and that is the fact that we were trying to emphasize the odds, and that they were making Reddick and Bell the same odds. And we're going to talk about that in this race as well. We've kind of talked about it every week. There's always a driver or two that we just don't understand the odds, but that's what was important that we wanted to point out, that it just didn't make any sense for Bell and Reddick to have the same odds.
No, and it proved it too. He was, as you said, he had a top 2 car. It was between him and Hamlin, and they delivered. It was finally a race where even there was some attrition. I mean, we saw Buschers cut tire and Truex and Byron spinning, but the best cars still rose to the top, and I was glad to see that. He deserved it. He was good there. We talked about that. That car was good there, and he's down in the round of 12.
Yes.
And good for him. We talked about if he could get there,
yes.
And now he's there. That was a good sleeper. We talked about that too. So
championship sleeper. Yep.
So,
and let's see. As far as our futures, let's see. Now you put a few $100 on him. Matter of fact, so did CJ. I don't think CJ had money on Reddick for a while. Let's see. Taking a look at our futures overall. You don't have a future update, do you, on your website?
I haven't posted it yet.
So let's see. I'll put them here. So let's see. Where are we? There we are. So these are the current odds, championship odds. But here, so I already have 19-2 on Reddick, which is why I passed on him this week because, and we'll get into it. I just don't think he's going to win this week, so I don't think he's going to lose anything. So, but there is CJ needing to put some money on Reddick, as you can see, because he's still only up to $6,000. But for you, as investing 30, it was very important for you to catch up. And now you're getting closer with Reddick. You're almost at an even break with Reddick, and that's the reason why you had to put money on him this week to get even a little bit closer.
Yeah, that's why I did it. Yep, because even though I agree with you, I don't think he'll win. I don't know if his odds will. Should it? I mean, crazier things have happened, but
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to go much different. But I had to catch up. I didn't want to wait too late because if he somehow wins, somehow gets a top 5, it's going to drop further.
6-1.
And I'm going to, yeah. So let's go ahead and snag him now because you got Texas next week, and he won that race last year. And we just saw what he could do in a 1.5 mile track these last 2 weeks with his finishes being second and first. So I think he's got to be a favorite going into Texas. And then we know what he can do on road courses. So there's a very real chance that Tyler Reddick could be in the round of 8. So I might as well capitalize now.
And then taking a look at the futures from the website, Race Review Online. Of course, we'll have a link in the description so you can check it out in your own time. But Reddick came through for me. He's on my team. And even though I was able to gobble up, the double the points for the race in the first playoff spot, the first phase, you still won the week. So you had 2nd, 5th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. And that is why you were able to do that, where I only had 2 drivers in the top 10, but one of them happened to be the winner, and that was Reddick. So, and here's the interesting thing, is that last year you won the fantasy by like what, 3,000 points, something like that.
Something crazy, yeah.
I forgot how it happened, but you just blitzed everybody. And this year's standings is just completely different. So now we're only talking about what are we now? Like I think just a couple of 100 points, I believe, separating the top guys.
I think it's set at the very top there. I thought you had it on. Oh, but it's Kansas playoff race too. Man, that's what they got the playoffs on there. Yeah, it's like 200 points total.
Yeah,
pretty close.
I think overall, let me see, where do I have it? It's 235. You're 235 back. Okay. CJ is even still alive as well at 545 back. So we still have a ways to go. But anyway, that just shows you that things we're having a lot of fun and things are happening with our fantasy teams as well. You had Larson leading the most laps, 99. Then he just disappeared. What happened to him?
I just think the cream rose to the top with Hamlin and Reddick. But yeah, he had that pit stop with Chase. I guess you could call that.
What was that about?
Where he exited, Chase was there, but I'm sorry, vice versa. I think Chase exited, he was there, and I think it was Keselowski. They were basically 3 wide, and Chase took an issue to that, which I don't know. I just feel like Chase is he just seems like an angry driver this year. I don't know if it's what it is, but I feel like he's just between the Hamlin thing, and I would have thought with a teammate.
Yeah.
Granted, he's still going for a championship too.
Yeah.
On the owner's side, but if I was Hendrick, I'd be like, look, man, you need to calm down a little bit. Like, you almost cost yourself and your teammate. You could have damaged both of those cars with as sensitive as these things are to run in. It just.
So you think Larson, that affected the car?
I don't think it did a lot. I don't think it really did much to it. I just think it more just the track position of coming out and not being clean air up front kind of hurt him a little bit. But I don't think it helped. But I just think that I don't know. It just seemed a little odd. And then confronting him on pit road when he's still in for his car and getting in his window. I don't know. I don't think he'll ever say what he said. I think Larson pretty much confirmed that he was mad at him because he said he understood why he was mad. But it just seems odd. Just this whole season for Chase, just something seems up.
Maybe we'll find out when the season's over. Oh, that's what happened. That's what was going on.
Yeah,
they just never told us.
Something.
Yeah.
Yep. That's kind of what it seems like.
Yeah, it's possible. Because even when Elliott was leading all those laps, he led 47, and he won the second stage, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't have the box score in front of me.
Let's see. Did he?
I know he led more laps Sunday than he did all season.
No, actually, he did not win the second stage. So he must have just got passed late for stage 2 by Kozlowski. So
That makes sense.
but the point I was going to make is that even in that position, when he led 47 laps at the end of that stage, I just never had the feeling that that really mattered. I didn't go, uh-oh, now Chase Elliott is going to take control of this race. It just never did. And I never felt that way. And then he just kind of hung around and finished 6th and didn't do much the rest of the race. And I was kind of surprised Kozlowski did not. That's the problem with Kozlowski. We'll get into it when we preview the race. It's just there's something that he doesn't have that Buescher has shown this year, is that final drive to get from inside the top 10, take the lead, and hold on to it and stay up there. He just hasn't had that this season.
No, it just seems like they're just missing that. How do I word that? Like, you hear in stick and ball sports, they talk about like that guy has the killer instinct, that he knows how to win. I feel like that's what they're missing almost. It just feels like they get close, but they just don't close the deal. And I just almost feel like that's where they're at. It just feels like he's not, for whatever reason, this closing the deal. I mean, it just seems like that's all they're missing at this point, is just get the win, and that changes everything. But you got to get the win first, and that's, I don't know. It just seems, that's what it seems like from the outside. Which, granted, I'm sure they might have a different insight internally, but from the outside, that's what it seems like.
By the way, Reddick, did he like only lead 1 lap?
2
laps.
Just the end.
The last 2 laps.
It was just the end. Yeah.
Which is kind of weird because of the fact that he had such a strong car. It wasn't like he was one of these cars that was in the top 10 and, took advantage and stole it. He had a strong car, so it was just kind of weird. He only had two laps led. So it was one of those strong 2 laps led kind of deal. But look, he did steal it because that race was over if it wasn't for the late caution. And he just didn't have anything for Hamilton. It looked like, I think it was right on the restart. It looked like, as usual, that was his only shot. And he was close, and he just could not. It looked like he was going to, for a little bit, it looked like, okay, he's got him. And then, but you really, because you never could be sure nowadays with how hard it is to pass on some of these tracks. And then when he just couldn't really do it, and he started to fade back a little bit, you were like, all right, here we go. This is going to take a while. And then it just never materialized if it wasn't for the late caution. So,
sometimes those late cautions and I guess to put a bow on these, the rule change, for lack of a better word. I mean, because with the stage breaks coming back, because as an example, last year the Roval, the only 2 cautions in the first 105 laps were the stage breaks. It didn't really do anything different to the race. And Christopher Bell stole that win. He led 2 laps. So you could kind of equate them and segue both those together with Reddick, what he just did. Yeah. But I think the difference would be Bell's car wasn't as good as what Reddick's was in Kansas last year, or Kansas this year compared to Bell at the Roval last year. It's kind of different situations. Reddick at least had a fast car. That car, as we mentioned, has won 3 of the last 4 at Kansas now. But, and we'll talk more, dive deeper into this subject when we get closer to the Roval, but stage breaks are coming back. And I think that's a complete wrong move. I've got it on my site, my takeaway from it. I just feel like NASCAR is contradicting themselves when a little caveat that they made to the rule change was like at Indy, where the restart zone, where they're in that final corner to try to create separation before going into turn 1. Well, at the Roval, they're going to restart. Remember how in the past they would use the oval? They would come off turn 4 and start. On their starts and restarts. This year, that little intersection where it kind of goes a little left-hand turn, right-hand turn, left-hand turn, kind of that little infield grass before it comes back on the dog leg there. They're going to use that now because they said they want to create more separation. Well, how do you bring stage breaks back, saying you want to spice up the show because it got redundant, but then say we're going to take the restart zone and hopefully we could get some spread out on the restarts. But aren't you saying you want the starts to spice it up, but then you're going to say the restarts you want to spread out? So which is it? It just makes zero sense.
But we all know why they're doing it, though. And you touched
Oh, we
up
know why
on
they're
it in
doing
the
it.
article. It's just simple. It's they saw what happened the last couple of races, that there were no cautions, there were no breaks.
Yep.
The races flew by. They had these ridiculous hour-long. We got to fill up the rest of the time that we bought with this network with post-race interviews and all sorts of things that you normally get in a rain-delayed kind of situation. And they just were like, yeah, this is great probably for the one driver and the one team and so forth, for the fans of the one car, but we have to manipulate this so more drivers and more fans get involved, and it's not like the best driver can just dominate and win and lead all the laps. We have to do something about that.
It's what it seemed. That's exactly, like you said, I wrote about that in there. It just seems like, and I have the stat in there too in that article about, I think 5 of the 6 road course races this year, the guy that won the most or led the most laps won the race. Like, it was deserved. It wasn't like they just took over in the final stage and manipulated their way to a win. Last year it was like 1 of 6. So last year guys are stealing wins. This year it's like it was pure. And I think if you look at it from a betting standpoint too, I would rather bet the race where the best car wins. Just like I don't bet an NFL game thinking a team that isn't the best is going to win, because that sounds foolish. But NASCAR is saying, hey, you know what? We really didn't like that Michael McDowell led all those Indy laps. We would prefer that we had a caution to let the field catch back up.
Yeah.
Is basically what they're saying. It's like, think about how stupid that sounds. And what I also don't like, the only thing I agree with what they said is they want to make the rules consistent through the playoffs. You want to have the same. I get it. But then why did you make the rule change to begin with? So you're
That's just an
basically.
excuse.
Yeah, that's what I take it at.
They're covering themselves with that one.
Yeah. So it's like, hey, well, we've had 3 quarterbacks hit with roughing the passer penalties that we probably think they shouldn't have been. So, you know what? For week 5 on for the NFL season, we're going to take away the penalty now. It's like you can't change the rules in the middle of the season. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty. Well, if it's a rule, it's a rule. And now they're like, well, that rule's not good enough because we want to include everybody into this. So let's go ahead and bring it back. Like, that just crazy. It just goes to show, it almost further goes in the category. I'm not putting this in the category, but you're going to that territory is like wrestling. You're trying to manipulate.
We keep bringing it up. It's the WWN. Yep. So
it seems ridiculous. As you guys can tell, I'm not a fan of this. I'm not a fan of this move. It's dumb. I think you're now going to manipulate a playoff race, because I'd be mad. It's like, if you have a car good enough capable of winning and you run away with it, you shouldn't be penalized for that. But NASCAR is basically saying, we're going to penalize you guys for having the best. Hey, shame on William Byron for having a really good car at Watkins Glen, or Michael McDowell for having a good car at Indy, or Martin Truex Jr. for dominating Sonoma. You guys shouldn't have dominated because our fans, they want action. But as like I'll say, I don't go to down the street to a Colts game because my ticket stub doesn't say, well, you know, they played the Jaguars last week, and if the Jaguars are up 21, because I don't like it, the NFL is going to call a timeout, and they're just going to hit the scoreboard button and let the Colts catch up. And then if the Jaguars pull away, we're going to hit that pause button again, let the Colts catch back up again. And then I'm guaranteed for an overtime game-winning field goal finish. And that's basically what NASCAR is trying to say. And like, you can't do that every race.
My solution is, and we talked about it before as well, I think they're start doing it next year if you can, but I think there's too many road courses now. And maybe because of the cars the way they are. I'm not saying I blame them, because I know the fans wanted it and they gave it, but if that's what's going to happen and your only solution is the stage breaks, which I know they're not going to do with the regular season next year, but what happens in the regular season next year without the stage breaks? And what happens if we get the same thing and we all of a sudden have these cars dominating, and what are they going to do? Well, that's, to me, the last step, or the next step should be, maybe we gotta cut this out, because it's just not good racing. And I don't want to see that, because I think the road course racing is a nice little element. I think it should be spread out more, frankly. I think the fact that they put it they put it too much together at certain points of the schedule, where one driver, if they're not good on road courses, can have like a 3 or 4 week stretch where they're they're irrelevant. And I just don't think that's right either. But that's a different story. Fact is, yeah, this is, we all know what it is. And if it continues next year in the regular season, then they're in trouble. They're gonna have to.
I would have applauded them if they would have, because like you said, you hit the nail around the head. Is this car, oddly enough, is too good for road courses? It was made. We heard that drum with, "Hey, this car is going to spice up the road course. It's really good. It's like the IMSA car. It's good on road courses." Well, yeah, you created a problem.
Yeah.
The car's too good on road courses.
Yeah, those are boring races. We don't want to bring those boring races over here. No.
Yeah, the old car didn't. It was boxy. It was made to turn left because there's only 3 road courses. So why would you put all your eggs in the road course basket when 33 of your races were on ovals? And now you've overexpanded. You got all these road course races with a car that is made to turn left and right. It's like, what do you think was going to happen? The road course package is arguably, that and the short track, the worst on the schedule. And who would have thought the intermediate package is one of the best? If they really, truly wanted to make a change, I'm going bold here, but if you really wanted to make a change, hey, we're not running the Roval. We're going to go to the oval. Just use it.
Yeah, why not? It was an awesome race.
I thought the 600 was great. Kansas just looked great with the same package. Maybe we say, hey, you know what? We're going to bypass the Roval. We'll just run the oval. We'll run 400 miles on the oval. That would have been, I would have applauded that. Hey, you know what? Okay. You want to change? Granted, I know we were making a change in the middle of the season. I just said it should be a no-no. But I think that race would have put on a lot better show because, as I mentioned, last year's Roval race, there's 109 scheduled laps. 104 through lap 104 of 109. There was 2 cautions, and they were both for stage breaks, and that race was boring.
See? So that's probably going to happen again.
This fix isn't necessarily going to be a fix. It's a Band-Aid for your car is not good on road courses. It's too good, and your package isn't good on road courses. You got to figure something out.
So yeah, and if it's us, we're eliminate. Look, put the dirt race on another track. If you want to continue that, you keep your 2 Bristols. And now that the new car is out and it's doing well at Charlotte, keep the 2 Charlottes again. So
yeah, it's a home game. I don't have a problem with going to Charlotte twice. It's a home game for these guys. It's not going to be the Coke 600 crowd, but it's still going to be. I think you still get a crowd, or even like they're talking about doing at Indy, rotate it. Do the Roval 1 year and the Oval twice. Whatever you want to do, but I just don't think the Roval is going to necessarily change much. I don't know if the stage breaks are going to change. It just seems like a temporary solution that I don't think is going to bring much value to that race.
All right. Let's get to viewer comments. And there were a few. Let's see, where were they? Randolph Rourke. Now, Randolph was the one that told us about the fantasy game. And so
that's right.
He wanted to be a little bit more I guess he wanted to define it more. He said, hey, guys, thanks for fielding my question about fantasy. For context, you buy in at the beginning of the season, and every week you draft 5 drivers plus 1 in the garage that you can swap out at any time until after Stage 2 finishes. During the season, you can use each driver 10 times, and then for the playoffs, it resets, and you can use each driver 5 times. Thanks again. And this is something that I see no reason why, we said this before, that we probably will investigate more, and maybe Eric and I will join a league, and Randolph maybe can invite us into one of his leagues, and maybe there's a way that we can all have, like, I think we have enough viewers now that maybe we could all have a league of just our viewers.
Yep.
That could be fun.
That'd be fun.
So Randolph, if you can put that together for us somehow, or if anybody out there listening wants to put that together, and I don't know how many owners there are in these leagues, if it's like football and you have 10 or 12 or whatever, and we can get that together, then we'll do it. So put it together, give us some, and if you want to give us some more detailed thoughts on it, don't forget to sign up on Discord, because that's the way that we can have a lot more of an intimate back and forth conversation, a lot easier than trying to do it on YouTube. So yeah, that's something that we're definitely into. Also, I think we have a new viewer that made a comment. Lana Gissinger said, thank y'all. I'm not sure what Lana was thanking us for, but you're welcome.
Yeah, I like it.
Donald Veal, try the 45 again. That worked.
Yep.
And let me make sure I have the correct way to pronounce Wayne's last name again. It's Bilo.
Philo, yep.
Yeah. So Wayne Philo, another great one, my friends. Didn't win this week. Bell killed me. Better luck at Kansas. And that's a pretty interesting maybe segue to our preview this week, because Bell is another big topic, being that he is the co-fourth choice. So, right? Co-fourth choice, I
Yes.
believe.
Yep. Plus 800. Yep.
Yeah, so we're going to get into that. Just a couple of notes on Bristol, since we haven't been on this surface all year. Out of the last 11 winners, 4 of them started 20th, 17th, 18th, and 24th. So even though it's a short track, it can be done. Kyle did it twice out of that 17 and 18. So it shows you how good Kyle is at Bristol. 6 of the last 8 winners started in the top 10. 5 of the last 8 in the top 5 with 3 poles. So yeah, both. So I think that's always makes it fun, which again, why it's a really fun track. You can qualify well on the pole, you can win the race, or you can qualify 18th, 20th, and still win the race. So, but you're right. It hasn't been the same Bristol so far with the new car, but this is the first time we're seeing it this year with the new car. So, I think the short tracks races have been better this year. We've had more parity. So maybe we will see a back to being an improved Bristol race, because really what we want to see is a lot of banging.
And that's the thing with last year, which they were saying. With this new next gen, the easier fix would be go to a smaller tire, which I know that changes things, but the tire's bigger, and you have a bigger tire going to a turn at Bristol, you're going to have more grip. And you're going to have more grip, you're going to go faster. And if you're going faster, it's hard to catch the car in front of you because you're all going the same speed. But that's where we saw the attrition, because you're putting a lot of load on that tire in that car. If you're going faster in the turn, which we know how steep that banking is there, that tire in that car is settling in and taking a load. And you think of 500 laps, things can break. You're adding a lot of load to that thing. So and that's where the setups are key. And I remember talking to the drivers for the last few years about this, where since COVID, when there's no qualifying, or there's not a lot of practice, then we have one round of qualifying that sets the lineup. Bristol's interesting in the sense that the race starts at sunset and ends under the lights.
Okay.
And temperature change is a big thing. Just the slightest 4, 5, 6 degree temperature change will change the way your car handles. But with stage points being a thing, you almost have to set your car up for the start, for the night, for the daytime part, because you need points. You got to get your points early. However, you're going to have to tinker that thing all race. You're not going to make it perfect. Where some of these guys, like a Buescher last year, wasn't in the playoffs. You don't need to worry about stage points. I'm going to set my car up for the nighttime. I want to make sure my car is better late. I just need to stay on the lead lap, but get to being late. So
and that's where you get these drivers that start, like Buescher was 20th last year.
Yes, that's where you see some of that. So you might see. So that's where a live bet, or wait till after qualifying, maybe a driver, Eric Jones, not in the playoffs, really good at Bristol, might start mid-pack. Well, maybe he's got his car set up for the nighttime, because this is an impound race. They do that P&Q, practice 30 minutes, qualify. So they might go, hey, I don't worry about qualifying. We're in the field, start in the top 20, and then we're going to have this car set up for the nighttime. I'm not set up for the daytime, because qualifying is going to be during the day anyway. So that's another little wrinkle to watch for this, and why some of that parity.
No,
and you also have this. Last 5 races, 5 different winners by 5 different teams. Gibbs, Penske, Stewart-Haas, Hendrick, and RFK.
Okay.
Those are the last 5 teams.
So who's left that's credible?
Well, I mean, I don't trust the drivers. We got 23-11. Eric Jones with Legacy could fall into that.
Eric Jones. Okay, I like that one. By the way, I picked up Eric Jones on my fantasy team this week.
A smart pick. That was the only one. I thought about it. I'm like, I always go back to your advice a year or 2 ago. If it's working, don't change it. Yeah. Even if there's no sense. My team got me the most points again. Like, why would I change it? Just leave it alone. Because I thought about it. I'm like, do I pick up Eric Jones? But I just picked up Cindric, and he's done nothing for me. So
That's true.
That just Just leave it alone. So I just left it alone. But
Yeah, Cindric has to win
yeah.
like that. That he's got to win like the Roval or something like that, or maybe
he's good.
Talladega.
Exactly. So I'll leave it alone. But 2311, RCR, Kyle Busch, those are probably some of your
Kyle
teams
Busch.
that
Okay,
fit into this.
I have both Kyle Busch and Jones, so that's good.
So there you go.
All right, I like to hear that.
That's if the trend continues.
If the trend continues, yeah. Okay, so how many picks did we correctly predict together?
I only went with like 7 or 8 this week, so I'm going to say
That's
3,
right.
2, 3,
2.
2. Okay.
Who are they?
Busher?
Yes.
Then I'm going to say CJ doesn't typically take long shots, so I'll take a flyer. Eric Jones?
No, he took no. His biggest long shot was Busher.
Okay, I figured he doesn't typically go past 12 or 1400. Yeah. So then I'll say Elliott.
No, I was the only one who didn't take him.
Then Hamlin.
No, you were the only. You didn't take him.
I didn't. I'm looking at my listing, and then I got them all in order. I don't know who. I don't remember all who I picked. I did it this morning. So then Larson. Did we all go favorite?
No, CJ was the only one that took him.
Wow.
No, you actually did not take. You pulled one of my strategies. You did not take the first 4 drivers.
I did. I went. Oh, that's right. I originally I deleted them. I went more farther back.
Which you should have. I mean, because last week I was looking at you because you hit it like we all hit Reddick.
Yep.
But you only made like $50 on it, and I was like, saying, I was looking at it and I'm going, did he forget where he is in the standings that he forgot to hit more money on because it's like you were heading that way, and it's like last week it's like you just kind of forgot and went back to the old way. And then now you're like, all right, I remember that now. I'm not going to make that mistake again. And then you went ahead and started to juice up your picks again and avoid the low odds.
I wanted to get further. I'm like, because the guys that I took, that's right. Because I originally had Larson, Byron. And I remember I was like, no, I'm going to delete them because I'm not winning anything on them.
Yeah.
Because I think they could win.
Sure,
I didn't choose them, not thinking that.
Yes.
But they're not going to win me anything if I choose. No. So I went farther. That's right. So Logano?
No. You and I got Logano.
Then I guess the only one left. Did I take Keselowski?
Yep.
Is it Keselowski?
That's it.
Okay. So that's the only other one.
Keselowski and Buscher. Matter of fact, out of your 6 drivers, you and I have 5 of them. So there's only one driver out of your picks that I did not take, and that was Chase Elliott. I
almost didn't. I'm
just not falling for it. So that's like we said last week. I wasn't falling for it. I didn't feel he was going to do it. Look, if this was the old Chase Elliott and he did what he did last week, I would have been, maybe he's going to win the race, and maybe he would have. But this is just a different Chase Elliott, and I just don't believe it. So maybe he'll get a win, and I know that's probably the direction you're going. Is he's going to win a race? He has to win a race, but. You know what? Unless I get really good odds, I'm just gonna go with the fact that he won't. And if he wins a race, all right. Well, there's 1 week I lost, but he ain't winning 2. So, if I lose 1 week, I lose 1 week. All right. So let's start at the top with Larson. And you and I did not take him. And look, the fact is that in order to make money, in order to try to get even your money back with Larson, we have to pretty much invest a quarter of our revenue or of our wallet. So that's why I was like, I can't do that. Not that, like you said, we can't see Larson winning. And I think this would be a good parlay wager. So it's a Saturday night. So let's say you like a football game on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and you really like Larson. Well, parlay it. Parlay the football game with Larson at 5-1, and you'll get a decent number back. That's how I would do it. And maybe I will. Because I last week, actually, I took Rory McIlroy to win in the Irish Open in Europe. He didn't win, but I had him in a parlay with Hamlin. You guys had Hamlin. I did not, but I knew Hamlin would probably be good, but I avoided him because he was 4-1. I think he was 4-1, right? And so I said, well, here's how I can do it. I'll get the favorite of the golf tournament, which was like 7-1 Rory, and put him in a parlay with Hamlin. I only had to invest like a couple of bucks, and if McElroy would have won, I would have had $100 on Larson. Excuse me, on Hamlin, which would have made my experience on Sunday a lot easier. But it worked out in the long run. But anyway, Larson, 7 top 10s in his last 8 at Bristol, 4 top 5s, 2 runner-ups and a win. He swept, in the 2 runner-ups, they happened both in 2018. And he's had 760 laps led during that stretch. And then this year, he's got a win at Richmond and a win at Martinsville. So, yeah. He led 175 in the 21 win, 200 laps in the 18 runner-up, and 202 when he finished 6th from the pole. So this is one of his better tracks. But again, the odds is just the only thing that just took it away for me.
Yeah, because if this was earlier in the season, I probably would have went some of those favorites. But for our viewers, we have $200 limit we can choose for the week. You don't hit, you're minus 200. And for where I am in the standings, I've hit a lot of singles. I haven't hit a home run, and the singles, because I struck out on some of them, have got me too far down to just win $50.
Well, look, for instance, what you could have done if you really, 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 really like Larson is just, I'm going to put 200 on Larson. If he wins, I'm even in the standings. I get my 1,000 back.
I thought of that.
Yeah.
But I was like,
but that's one really driver.
Larson or the field at Bristol at a track that anything can happen. Yeah. So, I just thought I could get more drivers. But, as you say, he's got 4 top 4 finishes and 6 short track starts this season. He should be the favorite.
He should be.
I just, to win the money that I'm after, and I just didn't take him. But if there's people out there that want to take him,
absolutely,
I could see why.
Yes.
He's like you said, parlay the top 3 if you want to, or you can get a parlay involved where you take him and Hamlin and Busher, parlay 3 top 3s right there, and that might fit you better with a football game. But I just couldn't take him just for that reason. But I do feel like he could easily win this race.
And the other thing too is that not that not going to be competitive and everybody wants to win, but he's got his win already. And I just kind of, and then what happened last week, it was like, well, what happened there? I know there was a little thing, but he looked like he was going to be strong there for a second. And I don't know if that plays into it. And we always talk about, well, once you win and you advance, you start thinking about other things. You start thinking about, well, we got to get the car ready for other tracks. And so I don't know, not that you can't win twice in the same 3-race stretch in a playoff round, but it doesn't usually happen. I don't think it does.
Not a lot, and especially with the tracks of these, especially too when you get into the round of 8. If you win early, you're focusing on Phoenix. You don't need to focus on the other 2. Yep. So, that's where I look at this one. You can't take much from Bristol and turn it to Martinsville or Phoenix, but this package is the same package. You might use this for research and development type. Hey, let's just throw this setup what we would in Phoenix or Martinsville, and let's learn a little bit. Let's just throw the finish away, but let's learn. We're already in the next round. It doesn't matter whether we win or lose. So that a little bit could change too. So,
and the other thing too is, even though the short tracks are Richmond and Martinsville and Bristol, now that Bristol's one race and it's so late in the season, and again, it was only been on this surface. This is only the second. Is this the second or third time with the new car?
Second.
Okay, so it's like there's just not a lot to go on, and it's like, so you can't really judge a whole. You would think you would. It's definitely a handicapping tool to say he won Richmond and Martinsville. There's no question about it.
Yep.
Short tracks, it definitely is something important, but Bristol is kind of different. So
it is.
Yeah, and Truex is a great example that we'll get to in a little while. Reddick is second in the standings after his win. Second and first to start, which is awesome. He's 16-1. You would think, wow, great odds. But this is, especially after winning last week with him, no way am I taking him this week. 1 top 5 out of 4. Never led a lap in the Cup Series. In Richmond and Martinsville this year, 16, 22, 25th last year here. He has shown the ability in the Xfinity Series, including a win and a runner-up his last 2 appearances, but he just hasn't shown it in the Cup Series yet, and he's not having any success so far in the short tracks this year.
No, and he's even mentioned it. He knows this isn't a strong track for him. That's why he even more was relieved to win last week to know I don't have to worry about that anymore. So when he's saying that, I'm gonna put some stock in it. So I don't. Plus, if you're 2311, I'm not saying that these cars are different like that because they're not. But if there's a motor that can get you an extra 2 or 3 horsepower, the car can get you. That's going to Bubba's side. They need him to get in. Ruddick's already in. So I think that team's focus is more how do we get Bubba Wallace to the round of 12? Reddick's already there. So I think he's going to be a teammate rather than the aggressor needing to win here.
Hamlin is third in the standings at 7-1. Now, here's an interesting take in my behalf. You and I both did not take Byron, but Hamlin third in the standings, Byron fourth in the standings. They're both 7-1. This to me is similar to what we were talking about last week with Reddick and Bell. I have no idea why Byron is 7-1 along with Hamlin. I don't get it. Hamlin is hot right now. We know that. 6 top 10s in his last 9. 5 of those top 3s. 3 of those runner-ups and a win. He has 2 wins here in his career. It's okay. Not great, but okay. He's got 2 top 5s out of 3 short track races this year, including second at Richmond in July. So everything's saying, yes, 7-1 makes sense. Definitely. That's why I picked him. And I put money on him. I put the most money. I put $50 on him. Byron, on the other hand, okay, finished third last year. That's nice. But everything else is not. I mean, okay, he's been okay at Bristol. 3 top 10s, 2 top 5s in his last 4. But he hasn't led a lap in 8 races at Bristol in the Cup Series. No laps. Okay. And in his 3 short track races this year, 21st, 23rd, and 24th. Why is William Byron 7-1 and Denny Hamlin 7-1?
I don't know. I think they just looked at the Phoenix win and 4th at Dover and thought, hey, he's been decent. We'll put him at 7-1, but he'd be a little more attractive. He was like 14-1.
Yes.
That's probably where he should be. So
yes.
That's the reason I stayed away. I'm like, well, he hasn't led a lap. He's a great top 5 fantasy play if you want to go that route. Because you look at him there, he's plus 110. If you want to go, hey, I'm going to go plus 110 on William Byron for a top 5 finish, go for it. But an outright win, I just find it hard to believe you're going to go from no laps led to winning Bristol.
Yeah.
On a track that we know that passing's hard. We talked about it's probably going to be difficult. So you're going to have to be up front leading a lot of laps. He hasn't led any. What makes you think he's going to do that? So, yeah, I avoided him for sure.
Then you have Keselowski, who's 5th in the standings at 8-1. And by the way, how much time do we have? 15 minutes?
I still got 15 minutes. Yeah, I'm still good.
Just want to make sure. All right, so Keselowski has the 3 wins and 1,000 laps led 109 laps last year, 2 top 10s at Richmond. Okay, that's all good. He's led at least 10 laps in 6 straight races at Bristol, at least 40 laps in 5 of 6, and that includes 82 laps, 91, 109, and 115. The only thing is the 8-1, because we talked about it. Winning is just. I put money on him. I did pick him. You picked him as well. I'm going to make a little bit money if he wins, but I can't do much further than that. But he's a solid play, no question.
Yeah, I felt almost wrong by going with it because the same way I'm like, is he going to actually win? Because that's the question. That's what we're going for is the winner, and he struggles to close it out. Last year, I know it wasn't his fault, but he blew a tire while leading. Richmond, he pits weird. Like, what were you doing? You had to.
Yeah.
He just consistently finds ways to lose rather than to win.
Yeah.
And I just felt 8-1 was steep for a guy that hasn't won since Talladega 2 years ago. I just thought that. I honestly was shocked. Like, why is Buescher 12-1 and he's 8-1?
Yeah.
It made no sense to me.
Yeah.
That's what told me they were basing off name because Buescher doesn't have the name as Keselowski. That's the only thing I thought of.
Probably.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, that he has been good there. 5 top 10 finishes his last 7 weeks of the season too. I guess, but I don't feel great about it.
Blaney's next at 14-1, and Blaney's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. At the 2 tracks he's not all that great at, 9th and 12th. That's all he had to do. Don't have any bad issues. You move on to the next round. You get to better tracks. So far, so good there. But this has been a decent track for him. It's not a bad track. It's not a great track, but it's a track that you can see him winning. He was also dominant in the Xfinity Series at this track, including a runner-up and a win. And he led 158 laps in 2019, 121 laps in 2018 race, and 100 laps in the other 2018 race. So he's shown his ability at this track. He just has to kind of put it all together. I think he's more experienced now. I think some of the inexperience played to some of the issues he had, because he was good early and then found issues later. So I think maybe that'll benefit him. And because he did do pretty decently at tracks that he's not great at the first two stops, I can see him doing even better this week. And I like the odds. I'm getting 14-1. I'm not touching him at 8-1 or 10-1,
No.
but at 14-1, I'm going, okay, yeah, I'll put a few bucks on him.
He's got to learn the racecraft there. As you said, he's had fast cars. He leads a lot of laps. Last year, he was strong. Tire blew. Granted, tire blew in a lot of Fords last year. But he's had tire issues in the past too there, get caught up in crashes. And there's a racecraft to racing at Bristol. As I mentioned earlier, it's a lot of load on your cars. It's not just all about speed. It's about putting the whole package together. The thing that scared me with him is he hasn't had a top 5 finish since his Charlotte win. And as you said, he's done what he had to do these first 2 weeks to get by. So on a track we know he'll have speed at, just get a top 10.
Yeah, I can see that. Sure.
Just
Stay
get
out of
to
trouble.
the second round.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, so I don't think he's in real big danger of missing out in the second round if he just keeps it clean. And I almost wonder if he just keeps it clean, you reel it in a little bit, he may not be as fast. That was the only reason I went against him. But that could also be a chance for him to win too, as you said, because if he reels it in, his car might be there in the end. And we know his car could have speed when he really start pushing. So that
maybe
could be a good
he plays the strategy of the night race thing.
Yeah, if I were them, I would.
Yeah.
Be there at the end. Yep. So we'll see what happens with him. But yeah, 14-1 is about where he should be. They got him right this week.
And by the way, his teammate Logano, who's 11th in the standings, is also 14-1. We both put money on Logano. He has a couple of wins. He hasn't had any. He's only had 2 laps led in the last 5 races, which concerns me. And by the way, that's the other thing that concerns me about Hamlin. He doesn't have a top 5 in his last 4 at Bristol. But overall, Logano in the 3 races at Martinsville and Richmond, all top 10s, including a runner-up and 2 top 5s, and he's been okay. I mean, he's been inconsistent, but he's been okay, and that inconsistency is why he's 14-1, and that's why I want to try to take advantage of it.
Same here, because like last year he finished 27th. He wasn't a top 5 car last year, but this isn't last year either. He won the championship that year. This year, I just feel like he just shows up. It seems like he's outside the top 15, top 20 on short tracks, and you look up in the final stint, and he's second, third, fourth.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's, like you said, he might be set up for the night version. Granted, he needs stage points because he's on the bubble, but I do feel like he could run that same strategy he's run on short tracks this year and be there at the end. He's proven he's done that more times than not. So I thought for 14-1, you've got to go with him this week. He knows how to win there. 7 top 10s his last 12. So he's been around. So it was a no-brainer.
And then Kyle, 7th in the standings at 11-1. I'm the only one that took him. And I know, again, we've been talking about it. He's just kind of there, sort of like Blaney so far during the playoffs. But he's so good. This is like his best track, basically, with 8 wins and over 2,500 laps led, which is just an amazing stat. Now, the problem, the new car. He hasn't done anything. The last stop, or even in 21, didn't do much. But he had engine problems last year. 1 top 5, that was Richmond in July out of the 3 short track. So nothing great. But I'm getting 11-1, and I figured, okay, Kyle is probably going to do, like you said, that Blaney might do as well. Let me just kind of do what I've been doing lately and just, people aren't even going to recognize me, and I'm going to be in the next round, and maybe that's what we see. But he's just so good here that 11-1 was just enough for me to say, okay, I'll put some money on him.
It used to be going in, if he wasn't driving the RCR car this year, when he's openly admitted, these are our worst tracks. We do not have short tracks figured out. I probably would have damn near put almost my whole 200 on him because this is how good he's been on that track. Because if I would have told you 2 years ago that Kyle Busch was going to be 12-1 at Bristol, I think you probably would have fell out of your chair like 12-1.
Yeah.
But I feel like he just has said these are his worst tracks. These guys cannot figure it out. That's why I stayed away from them because can they figure it out? Or as you said, maybe he's just boring. Maybe he just goes and he's boring this weekend to get
Yeah.
by. And as we said, he was on a milk carton a few weeks ago. I didn't know where he went.
Yep.
And now two seventh place finishes the last 3 weeks. They're doing what they need to do to get, as you said, get by. You just got to get by into the second
That's
round.
it.
And I feel like he's done a good enough job. Why change? You know you're not good at this. He's good. This car hasn't been good at tracks like this. Just be good enough. Be boring. Be vanilla. Just get your few stage points, get you a top 15, and live to see another day. Because if he could get, because I was one of them. I had him on upset alert, not even making it out of the first round. And
That's
he's
right,
done enough to do that. So if he could just do what he's been doing. So I just don't think you change your approach if you're him or the 18 this week. So that's why I didn't go with him this week.
Yeah, the fact that he had a top 5 at Richmond in July was also why I was like, okay, they showed it a little bit. So maybe, sometimes it could just turn on, and it has turned on. There are several drivers that didn't respond well last year that responded well this year, and it was really just one race. It's like, yeah, we're pretty good at that track, and the rest of them we're still struggling at. So who knows? If there's a track that Kyle cannot struggle at out of all the other tracks, this is it.
Yep.
So, all right, Chastain at 14-1. Never led a lap here. 6th last year, though. That's when he was the change driver, so that's important to note. Is only top 10. 3rd at Richmond in April. Runner-up in his last Xfinity Series race, too, and he led over 100 laps. But he's not really been leading a lot of laps lately, and the only thing that's good is the 14-1.
Yeah, and he, with 6 short track package races this year, 4 of them, he's finished 13th or worse. So I just didn't trust it. We know how he races. He's tamed down this year, as we talked about that going into the playoffs.
That's got to change.
If he's tamed this week, he's just going to get chewed up and he's alive.
Yeah, and he might wind up outside the playoffs.
Yep. So I think he just needs, again, he's like him and Kyle and Blaney. They're in that same just maintain category. Just get by. That's all. Just get by to the next round. And that's why I feel like their strategy this weekend will be just that.
Which,
just
again, is the reason why it's going to be tough for Truex to win this race, who's also 14-1. He's 13th in the point standings. 2 top 5s in 32 races. That's it. And none since 2012. Now, the good news is 11th, 7th, and 3rd on the short tracks, so that's good. But other than that, there really isn't anything that says that Martin Truex Jr. is going to end up in the top 10 or the maybe top 10, maybe. But again, as we were saying, if all those other drivers perform the strategy of we're just not going to do anything wrong, then he needs a big effort. And I'm not sure we're going to get that.
No, I'm shocked he was 14-1. I mean, what has he proven to be 14-1 when he was last year he finished last, and last week he finished last.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they were. 14-1 just didn't even. There's no way I was biting on that. And as you said, I think that's exactly what you combine with guys just needing to get by, and you combine, like I said, about the track just chewing you up and spitting you out. If you get too much, you run it too hard. Those guys are going to take the top. Hey, we'll take here. We're not going to beat ourselves. You beat us. Well, I don't think Truex has it in him. He does, but he doesn't on this track to beat them. So he's got to swing for the fences and run this car hard, and that usually doesn't bode well.
Yeah, well, to tell you the truth, maybe their strategy of doing the night change thing might be the best way. Is just don't do that. Just we're going to take a chance. This may not work. It may backfire. But let's play the long game in this race and hope it works out in our favor. So
they've got to. They've got to be there at the end because
being aggressive probably won't work, like you said. So
no, because unless Logano or Harvick or Blank, like any of those guys
having
troubles early,
yeah,
then you need to be there at the end because you're not going to outpoints them. That granted, 7 points doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking the quality of drivers, to make up 7, that's difficult when those drivers are championship level drivers. So it's not an easy feat for him to make up for at all.
And 3 of them are next. Yeah, Buescher 12-1, Bell 8-1, Harvick 12-1. So Buescher's the defending champ, and he won the Richmond race in July. So he's got that going for him. Bell. Again, don't understand why he's 8-1 again. He has an Xfinity Series win and an Xfinity Series runner-up. We get that. He does have a top 5 out of 4 races at Bristol, which was last year, led 143. That's all good. 4th at Richmond in April. That's his top 5 this year in the shorts. But, I mean, I'm just not going to – I'd rather just do what I said even with Elliott. You know what? At this point, if Bell's going to win, he's going to win without me. If he's going to win, I want to see him win first before I start getting on his bandwagon and wasting any of my money. Harvick, on the other hand, I'm getting 12-1. He's got 3 career wins, over 1,200 laps led. He's got his solid results out of the 3 short tracks this year. 10th last year, 2nd in 21, 1st in 20. So even recently, he's been solid here, and I just think it's a matter of time before Kevin Harvick wins. He's just hanging around, and he just hasn't had any breaks lately.
I agree, and this is a great track for him, and you get him for those odds, you have to take him. I don't see. I feel like this will make up for that Southern 500. You know he's going to win at some point in this season. He's not going to go winless. This is a great place to take him with. And Bell, as you said, they've had speed. That's not the issue. They're not executing. I mean, he's got 1 top 5 finish since Easter on this track. But this track, I don't know if Vegas or the odds makers realize that the race and that track behind me in the picture was on dirt, not on concrete.
Yeah.
It's not the same Bristol.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they just – I think it's ironic they switch pit crews. They give him Ty Gibbs' pit crew, and Ty Gibbs' pit crew was rated the top pit crew of the year. They won the All-Star Challenge, and they've struggled on this car. I feel like they've had issues. This isn't a track.
That's a pressure situation that they're not coming through.
No, and that scares me on a track to where if you have the slightest bit of an issue,
you're screwed. Yeah,
you're going multiple laps down.
Yes.
So there's no reason for 8-1 that I would take him when you can get Logano and Buescher. And Buescher, I mean, he's got 5 top 7 finishes in the last 7 weeks of the season, 4 top 6s in his last 5 at Bristol. Why would you not take him at 12-1? So,
defending champ.
Better value to go that rail.
Yeah. All right, and then also now you got Wallace, who needs a win basically at 28-1, but this is just—it's not a good week for him. This is just the setup just doesn't work. Stenhouse and McDowell are 100-1. Now Stenhouse has not finished the race 4 of the last 5, which is not good, but he historically before that actually did well at Bristol. McDowell, meanwhile, it was 11th last year. 3 top 15s in his last 4, including a top 10. So he's actually done better the last 4 times at Bristol than he has an entire career. So I don't know. It wasn't good enough for me. I knocked him off my fantasy team. But who would you take? Wallace, Stenhouse, or McDowell?
Probably Wallace, just because Toyota seems to be pretty good there. He hasn't been good at Bristol, but he's been really good on short tracks this season. I mean, you look at what he's 13th, 22nd, 9th, 12th, 8th, and 12th. So he's been good on short tracks. The only thing that scares me, he's got 2 top 10 finishes his last 14 races. So he hasn't been around. But I would trust a 2311 Alliance car with JGR over Front Row Motorsports or JTG. Stenhouse is good there too. Yeah. It's just, are they truly going to win Bristol? This is a marquee event. I just don't see it. I think they're kind of dead in the water. They have to win this weekend. I really think all 3 are going to have to win this weekend.
Yep, probably.
I don't see it.
Yeah, and I'd see that. You're right about that as well. And then as far as the long shots, now Elliott, I mean, the plum playoff drivers, Elliott is 10-1. Come on. I mean, give me more than 10-1 the way he's going. Yeah. I know he's been better lately. So 4 of his last 5 are in the top 10. I get it. 2nd in this race last year, but still, I just don't see it. I know you guys put money on him. And then the other long shots to talk about were the 3 that I put money on: Jones, Almirola, and Briscoe. Almirola only has 2 top 10s this year, both at the short tracks. He led 36 laps in this race last year. Briscoe, 14th and 13th in his 2 cup races. That's solid. In his last 4 Xfinity Series races here, 1st, 2nd, 2nd, and 4th. He was 5th in April at Martinsville. So if there's a track Briscoe can be good at, this is it. And Jones, as we both put money on Jones, is a 60-1 long shot. 3rd and 10th in his last 2 races. He's kind of doing what he did last year, heating up now. He's got 2 wins in the Xfinity Series. And he led 260 laps in 2017 in the NASCAR Series from the pole when he finished 2nd.
Yeah, and you look at what he did, just this race in general. He's raced for Petty, or I'm sorry, he's with Petty now. Gibbs, Furniture Row when they were kind of the Truex had the best car out of that one as rookie. But so you look at his finishes on this race: second, fifth, 22nd, third, eighth, 21st.
Yeah.
He's in the top five. And he said he's great there in
4
Xfinity.
times.
He's great on
Yeah.
concrete. Yeah, great on concrete. He's 60-1. He's got 2 top 10 finishes. And this track isn't necessarily all about. It's not big enough to worry about speed. So it's not like he's at a huge disadvantage either. So I like him, and I like that Briscoe pick. I mean, I looked at short tracks. I almost picked him too. 7th, 12th, 5th, 30th. That was an issue, but that's okay. 10th, 11th. Top 12 on all of them but one. Stuart Haas has had great short track cars this year. Martinsville, they all started up front. Richmond, they all started good. So that's a good one too. And I said, these guys that are not a threat to move to the next round, they're not going to get moved out of the way at the end if a driver doesn't need a win. Like if you're Denny Hamlin and
Oh yeah.
Bubba, if he's already too far back, he's like, why would you create drama with a guy that could come back and get you later? So they're going to get raced more clean than they would otherwise.
And any closing thoughts on Elliott of why you took him?
Only because I feel like if he's going to win a race, it's going to be something like he just seems like he's been in a roundabout way, a pissed off mood all season. And you kind of have to race Bristol that way. He's just kind of already in the mindset. And that car is still going for owner's championship. He was runner up last year. He led 129 laps in 2021. And I looked at on short tracks this season 10th, 11th, 12th, 17th. 4 top 8 finishes his last 5 weeks on the season. I just felt like he's inching closer. So if it's going to happen, it might as well happen this week. So I don't like the 10-1, but at least hedged a little bit to try to get something out of him.
Well, hey, look, again, some of these drivers, if you don't like their odds, wait until qualifying. And as we said, if they qualify 15th into 20th range and the odds go in your favor, take advantage of it.
So. Exactly. You always have the live betting option for sure.
And next week, what do we do?
Texas.
Is that a good thing? It's a 1.5 mile race?
It hasn't been, but this package has been pretty good. Remember last year was the one where all the tires kept blowing. They're having issues.
Well,
so
that actually may not be a bad thing for
fans. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right, Eric. Appreciate it as always. We will talk to you again next week.
Yep. Sounds good. Thank you.